At the wedding that was supposed to be the talk of the town, there were two grooms. And I, the actual groom, was the one everyone forgot. My bride, Isabella, was blushing as she extended her hand to Caleb Hayes, my supposed savior, who was on one knee, proposing to her. He was wearing the custom-tailored suit Isabella had spent a fortune on for me, holding the ring that was supposed to be mine. When I demanded an explanation, her face twisted with disgust, her voice dripping with impatience. A wedding is just a ceremony. It doesn't matter. You're the one I'm legally marrying. If their love was that undeniable, then I should be the one to step aside. Turning my back on the spectacle, I walked away and dialed an overseas number. Pull the funding, I said, my voice eerily calm. I'm coming home. At the lavish wedding ceremony, I, the groom, was cast aside. A boundless rage burned through my chest, and I clenched my fists, my eyes bloodshot. My fiancé, Isabella Vance, stood in her wedding gown, her face a picture of surprise as she looked down at Caleb Hayes, who was on one knee proposing to her. The sight seared my eyes, and the last thread of restraint in my mind snapped. This wedding was the last chance I was giving her. Before today, she had sworn to me, promising she would cut all ties with Caleb and focus on being my wife. Now, the agony in my eyes met the blatant triumph and provocation in his, and my years of devotion turned into a bitter joke. I laughed at my own expense. It felt like a gaping hole had been torn open in my chest, letting an ice-cold wind howl through me. Sorry, Ethan, Caleb said, his attempt at sincerity pathetic. I accidentally put on your suit. How could you be late for something as important as your own wedding? His methods for smearing my name were as crude as ever, but Isabella, blind and deaf to his true nature, couldn't see it. Seeing my cold expression, Caleb feigned fear and ducked behind Isabella. She shielded him, her eyes locking onto me with suspicion. Her voice, once so gentle when she looked at me, was now sharp with anger, stripped of any affection. All that remained was irritation. Are you done making a scene? She snapped. You're the one who was late. You have no right to question Caleb. Thank God he was here to save the day. I let out a cold, harsh laugh and turned, revealing the back of my shirt, soaked through with blood. Isabella froze, her eyes widening as they began to redden. She stared at my back in disbelief, her voice filled with confusion. What happened? When my gaze shifted pointedly to Caleb, who was struggling to maintain his composure, Isabella's brow furrowed. That's impossible, she blurted out. Seeing his chance, the manipulative bastard played the victim. He probably just splashed some fake blood on himself to make an excuse for being late, he said, his face a mask of innocence. Is that so? I countered. I was mysteriously attacked from behind, knocked unconscious. That's why I was late. I wonder if the real culprit would be scared if I filed a police report. Caleb's face went pale, his eyes darting away, unable to meet my gaze. Enough. Isabella cut in. I already agreed to let Caleb clean up your mess. I believe he's innocent. As soon as the words left her mouth, Isabella took Caleb's hand in front of everyone, signaling for the ceremony to continue. And I, the real groom, became a mere spectator at my own wedding. Because Caleb had once saved her life, she was always at his beck and call, acting more like his wife than my fiancé. Fine, I grant them their wish. This time, I didn't even bother to question her. My heart had turned to ice. Since she didn't cherish our 7-year relationship, why should I cling to it? As the thought crossed my mind, a sharp pain pulsed from the back of my head where I'd been hit. I had risked my life to get here, and her response was to let another man take my place without a single thought for my safety. It was all one-sided, my delusion. Just as I was about to leave, a line of security guards blocked my path. Hold him down, Isabella commanded, her voice cold. Make him watch what happens when he defies me. Struggling was useless. The guards forced me to my knees at the feet of Isabella and Caleb, forming a grotesque triangle. The guests below erupted in laughter at the dramatic scene. Hilarious. The kept man thinks he has a backbone. If it weren't for Isabella supporting him all these years, he'd be begging on the streets. Or maybe some rich cougar would have picked him up as a pet she could beat whenever she wanted. Isabella gave him so much respect, and he still tried to run from his own wedding. He needs to be taught a lesson. Hearing this, a satisfied smile spread across Isabella's face. She bent down, grabbing my chin, her tone dripping with contempt. Be a good boy, Ethan. You should be thanking Caleb for saving this wedding. How could she humiliate me like this? A tear escaped the corner of my eye, and I started to laugh, my whole body shaking. Seeing my almost maniacal state, Isabella looked away, unfazed. She made me watch as she and Caleb exchanged rings, embraced, and shared a deep kiss amidst a storm of applause, my own furious shouts lost in the noise. Caleb saw the anguish in my eyes and pulled her even tighter, his gaze a final, triumphant challenge. Isabella waved a dismissive hand at the guards. "Let him go," she ordered, her voice like ice. "Behave for the rest of the night. You can make it up to us by taking the drinks for us, and I'll forget about you being late." I suppressed the inferno in my heart. All I wanted was to get out of there. My soul, riddled with 1,000 wounds, was exhausted. I tried to walk away, but Isabella blocked me again. "Did you not hear me?" My gaze, colder than a winter night, fell on their intertwined hands. A mocking sneer formed on my lips. The illegitimate daughter and the homewrecker. A perfect match. Do the world a favor and lock yourselves away so you don't ruin anyone else. My words made both of them flinch. Isabella, livid, pointed a finger at my face. "Why do you have to be so petty? The wedding is just a meaningless ceremony. The only man who will ever be my legal husband is you, Ethan Shaw." Seeing me cornered, Caleb's eyes lit up with victory, and he quickly added fuel to the fire. "Isabella's right. The wedding is just for show." He leaned in, a smug look on his handsome face. "If you're still angry, you can hit me to let off some steam." He presented his cheek to me. I smirked and obliged, landing a crisp, resounding slap across his face. Caleb stared at me, stunned, his cheeks swelling instantly. A flash of venom crossed his eyes before he forced a pained smile. Seeing him get hit, Isabella flew into a rage and swung at me. But after everything that had happened, I saw her for what she was: cold, heartless. There was nothing left to lose, and I wasn't about to take another blow. I dodged her slap, meeting her shocked gaze. With a slight tug at the corner of my mouth, I turned and walked out of the ceremony. Her threat followed me. "If you take one more step out that door, we're through." She had always used our relationship as leverage, confident in my love for her. But now, I was leaving her world. The love she used as a weapon was worthless to me. I had given up my family to be with her, spending 7 years in this city, devoted to her every need. In return, her friends and family mocked me, calling me a kept man, a leech who lived off a woman. This time, I was really leaving. I dialed the familiar number again. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I forced a light tone. "Pull the funding. I'll be out of the country as soon as possible." In 3 days, I would disappear from Isabella Vance's world forever, never to be seen again. After getting my head wound treated at the hospital, I returned to the wedding suite I had decorated myself. Pushing through the pain and exhaustion, I began to throw away everything that belonged to me, just as I had been thrown away. Soon, there would be no trace of me left in Isabella's world. Late at night, I was curled up on the sofa, burning with fever. As I struggled to get up to find the light switch, the front door, which had been shut tight, swung open. 2 figures stumbled in, their panting and moans tangled together in the darkness. Even though I had worn my heart, seeing them, seeing her, was a betrayal that physically hurt. For 7 years of dating, 5 years of living together, I had never touched her. I wanted to save that intimacy, that sign of ultimate respect, for our wedding night. And her? She couldn't wait to bring another man into our wedding suite. The irony was suffocating. I flicked on the lights and applauded slowly, my voice cutting through their shock. What a performance. Truly, a spectacular show tonight. Isabella's face went white, being caught in such a private moment. Even her thick skin couldn't handle the shame. Her lips trembled, her face flushing from pale to crimson. Caleb wrapped his arms around her protectively, then glared at me with pure hatred. "She broke up with you, Ethan. This is her home. Get the hell out." The sight of them had my stomach churning. Isabella, her nose red from crying, spoke words that chilled me to the bone. "You've loved me for so many years. Can't you tolerate this one little thing?" she pleaded. "Where would you even go if you left me? Just be a good boy. In a little while, we'll go get our marriage license. Be a good boy." She always wanted to control my thoughts, my soul, to make me live like her puppet. I was not her pet. My fists clenched, my body trembling with rage. A coldness seeped from my lips as I stared at the face I had loved day and night. I hated myself for being so blind, for loving a woman so faithless. Grief wrapped around my heart like barbed wire, squeezing the air from my lungs. The disgust was overwhelming. My voice was a blade of ice. "I accept the breakup. From now on, we are strangers." At my words, Isabella's expression darkened. Caleb, however, beamed. He could see his future as the partner of a CEO, a life of endless wealth just within his grasp. "Ethan, I'm not discussing this with you," Isabella said, her tone final. "I'm informing you." My head was spinning, the pain worsening. I didn't have the energy to waste another word on her. Without responding, I turned to leave. They blocked the door, and Isabella's face contorted with fury. "Listen to me," she snarled. "Go to your room and stay there. What woman doesn't want to have a little fun? Just turn a blind eye." Her brow was furrowed, her eyes filled with menace. She knew I was weak, burning with a fever in the middle of the night. Yet she ordered Caleb to drag me into the bedroom and lock the door, decreeing I wouldn't be let out until I was ready to apologize. Even my phone, my only connection to the outside world, was confiscated. Cold sweat beaded on my forehead as I curled into a ball, consumed by pain. I don't know how much time passed in that feverish haze, but eventually the door opened. Caleb kicked me contemptuously in the head, his voice giddy with excitement. "Oh, still alive, are you? Be smart and get out of the way. Isabella can only be mine." He leaned in close, his laughter a venomous whisper in my ear, a constant reminder of my humiliation. "You protected her for 7 years and never even touched her. Yet she gave herself to me so willingly. As a man, I almost feel sorry for you." A while later, Isabella emerged from her room, looking exhausted after her night with Caleb. The fever had raged all night, and the wound on the back of my head had reopened. I managed to part my lips, my voice a raw croak. "My phone. I need to go to the hospital." Hearing me, Isabella raised an eyebrow in surprise, then looked down at me. A satisfied smile returned to her face. "So, you finally realize you were wrong?" she asked. "I'm tired of this whole playing sick act. Get up and make us some breakfast." A wave of despair washed over me. My cheeks were flushed crimson from the fever. Anyone with eyes could see I was seriously ill. My consciousness began to fade again. The last thing I saw was Isabella's face, contorted in a mask of fury, her hand swinging toward me in a slap. I finally came to the next day, my body sprawled on the cold floor. A white, wet patch on my chest gave off the bitter smell of medicine. She hadn't even bothered to take me to a hospital. She had just poured some medicine down my throat and left me on the floor to live or die. When I tried to move my jaw, a sharp pain shot through my face. I staggered to the mirror and saw that my face was swollen to nearly twice its size, a perfect handprint imprinted on my cheek. I clenched my fists instinctively. 7 years of devotion, and I wasn't even worthy of basic human respect. My phone, tossed on the floor, buzzed. I picked it up. Caleb had sent me a series of videos of him and Isabella, each message a gloating declaration of his victory. They had gone on their honeymoon. The honeymoon I had dreamed of for 7 years. She had casually given to another man. The 3 days were up. The reunion, 7 years overdue, had finally arrived. I threw away my SIM card. Just before I deleted my WhatsApp account, my tear-blurred vision focused on our pin chat. After 7 years, it deserved a proper end. Goodbye. After sending the message, I boarded the plane without a second glance. From now on, I was free. I would no longer be her caged bird. Back in New York, Isabella received my message and panicked, as if she had just lost the most important person in her life. She became obsessed, dropping everything to search for any trace of me, tears of regret streaming down her face. Unaware of any of this, after a flight of more than 10 hours, I landed in a country that was completely new to me. Ever since my parents died in an accident, my only living relative was my uncle. It had been 7 years. My uncle, Robert, was no longer young. When I heard his familiar voice, my eyes welled up, and I had to fight back tears. My cousin Chloe's eyes filled with sympathy as she wrapped me in a tight hug. "You only come back when things go wrong. Are you an idiot?" she scolded, her voice thick with emotion as she held back sobs. "Look how much weight you've lost." Before I could say a word, she started crying for me, unable to stop. Seeing her so upset twisted my heart, and I tried to comfort her, pretending everything was fine. Uncle Robert's family saw I wasn't ready to talk and just sighed, their concern unspoken. The ride home was filled with their cheerful chatter, a welcome warmth. At the dinner table, they piled my plate high with all kinds of hearty food. It felt so good to be cared for again. A lump formed in my throat, and I had to turn away so they wouldn't see my tears. When I looked back, all 3 of them were watching me with quiet, pained expressions. I knew I couldn't hide it from them. In a calm, detached voice, as if I were telling someone else's story, I told them everything. Uncle Robert's face grew dark with fury. He slammed his fist on the table and shot to his feet. "She mistook a fish eye for a pearl," he roared, his eyes red with anger. That ungrateful, illegitimate daughter. If it weren't for my secret backing all these years, do you think she could have secured her position as CEO of Vance Corp? His voice boomed. "Ethan, she knew she'd be nothing without you, and she still dared to humiliate you like this. It's unforgivable. What I told him next sent him into an even greater rage. All I had done for Isabella, she had never known. My uncle scolded me for being so foolishly in love, warning that such devotion would only lead to unbearable pain in the face of betrayal. I had protected her with all my heart for so many years. This time, I wouldn't help her anymore. She didn't treasure my unconditional love, but she fell head over heels for Caleb's calculated affection. A few days later, Uncle Robert dragged me to the hospital for a full checkup. When the results showed I was mildly malnourished, he slapped me lightly on the back of the head. "You need to get yourself healthy," he said, his tone a mixture of frustration and affection. "I'm putting you in charge of the subsidiary. You're a top Wharton grad, for God's sake. You let love rot your brain and waste all that talent. If you ever do something this stupid again, I'll skin you alive." I just smiled, patting his shoulder. I promised him I wouldn't be a fool ever again. Isabella Vance didn't deserve my love. A month and a half later, I had adjusted to the time difference and my new role as president of the subsidiary. The busy schedule helped me forget, but my peace was short-lived. The NYPD had contacted me through the embassy. My fiancé, they said, was searching the world for me. I refused to disclose my location several times, until Isabella, accompanied by an embassy official, cornered me at the office. She looked exhausted. Her usual flawless makeup was gone, revealing a pale, tired face. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up with a spark of joy. She grabbed my hand without asking. "How could you leave without a word?" she complained. "We can have another wedding. Just come home with me." Caleb was with her. Though I knew he wished I would vanish from the face of the earth, he put on a show of excitement, gripping my shoulder like we were old friends. "Stop being childish, man," he urged. "Isabella hasn't been eating or sleeping. She's lost so much weight looking for you." Their hypocrisy was almost comical. If they were so concerned, why would they have left me burning with a fever, only to pour medicine down my throat and slap me? I rejected them without a moment's hesitation, my voice flat and cold. Isabella looked at me as if I'd told the world's most absurd joke. Her eyes widened, and then her expression shifted to one of pure rage, as if I had committed some unforgivable crime. Her voice became shrill. "How can you refuse me? Without me, you have no family left in this world. Can you really stand that loneliness?" She was using my parents' death as a weapon, preying on my vulnerability. It was pathetic that I had been blinded by a false love for so long. As she spoke, tears streamed down her face. Caleb pulled her into his arms, wiping her tears with a tender expression. Just as I was about to speak, a powerful voice boomed from down the hall. "He's got me, his uncle. And who the hell are you?" "Just some illegitimate daughter who can't be brought out into the light." Uncle Robert appeared, flanked by several imposing bodyguards. At the words illegitimate daughter, Isabella's crying hitched for a split second. She looked up at my uncle, her face pale, then shot a wounded, innocent look in my direction. I suppressed the coldness in my eyes and quietly said, "Uncle." He gave me a reassuring glance and stepped in front of me, shielding me. He was worried I still had feelings for her, that her presence would reopen the wounds that had just begun to heal. Sleeping with another man, swapping grooms at your own wedding, trying to have it both ways, and enjoying the thrill of making men fight over you. Uncle Robert spat, his voice laced with contempt. You couldn't be any cheaper. His anger grew with every word he threw at the faithless woman standing before him. He was fighting my battle for me. I watched coldly as the ugly truth was laid bare, leaving them stunned and speechless. Isabella's face was a kaleidoscope of colors, white, then red. It was quite a show. Cornered, she glanced at me and tried desperately to explain. "No, it's not like that. I was just repaying a debt. I'm not as horrible as you think." Her last words were barely a whisper. So, she did have a conscience after all. After sleeping with Caleb right in front of me, she still had the nerve to claim she was just repaying a debt. She looked away, unable to meet my uncle's piercing gaze. I stared at her, my voice devoid of any emotion. I made myself clear. We're through. We will never see each other again. Who you like, who you love, has nothing to do with me. My voice dropped lower, colder, and using the title of fiancé to look for me just makes me sick. Now be smart, take your boy toy, and get out. We don't welcome trash like you here. My merciless words drained the color from her face, and she lowered her eyes in shame. A moment later, she looked up at me with pleading eyes, then her knees buckled, and she fell to the ground at my feet. She gripped the fabric of my pants, sobbing. "I do love you, Ethan. Caleb is just my savior. Everything I did was to repay my debt to him," she cried. "He has depression, and his lifelong dream was to have a wedding. You were late, so I let him take your place to finish the ceremony." Everyone was watching. I had a save face. I scoffed and shook her hand off, my patience worn thin. Stop using me as an excuse for your cheating. You disgust me. Get out. My heart pounded in my chest. I was seeing red, afraid I would lose control and slap her across the face. The moment I turned my back, the sound of slapping echoed behind me. One slap after another. Isabella, her face a mask of despair, was hitting herself without hesitation, trying to beg for my forgiveness. But even if she dropped dead in front of me today, I wouldn't turn back. The air was thick with tension, punctuated only by the dull thud of flesh hitting flesh. Isabella's face was already swelling, visible even from a distance. Everyone makes mistakes, she pleaded, her voice hoarse. Please, just forgive me this one time. Self-harm was her go-to move for getting forgiveness. The first time I caught her with Caleb, she had done the same thing. I'd lost count of how many times she'd apologized like this. My impassive expression finally seemed to break through to her. It was clear she couldn't understand why. This time, her pleas and self-flagellation elicited no sympathy, not even a flicker of emotion from me. One wedding had shown me the truth of her feelings. Her desire to have everything her way had frozen my heart solid. Uncle Robert signaled for the bodyguards to remove her. She struggled wildly, screaming words of love and devotion, but I couldn't bring myself to believe them anymore. In the end, she and Caleb were dragged away like a pair of stray dogs. My uncle shot me a sly wink. I waited until she'd slapped herself a few times before having them thrown out, he said with a sigh. I had to vent some of my anger. Thinking about what you went through, I was afraid I'd lose my temper and teach her a lesson myself. It's good that you don't feel sorry for her. Even if it's just numbness for now, it's better than wasting your whole life. My eyes stung. I understood his intentions. He was afraid I was still in love with her, which is why he hadn't stepped in himself. Since I had decided to let go, I would not look back. For 3 straight days, Isabella and Caleb camped outside my office building. It was laughable. She was begging for my forgiveness while bringing her lover along. Without the filter of love, I was seeing for the first time just how pathetic she truly was. I took the private elevator down to the underground garage. Just as I started the car, Isabella appeared out of nowhere, standing in front of my car with her arms spread wide. Her lips moved, her expression a careful mix of appeasement and pleading. But I had no desire to hear her deceitful explanations. I slammed my foot on the gas, the car lurching toward her. Her terrified face grew larger in my windshield. She had clawed her way to the top of Vance Corp. She wasn't about to die here. I had been so blinded by love that I'd forgotten her true nature, selfish and self-serving. Just as I predicted, she scrambled out of the way, her face ashen. As for her position at Vance Corp, I had planned to dismantle her power piece by piece. But since she was shameless enough to keep harassing me, I decided to cut to the chase. Being constantly bothered by her was nauseating. That evening, we were celebrating my cousin Chloe's 20th birthday at home. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, and Chloe, smiling, went to answer it. When she saw Isabella at the door, her smile froze, and she quickly tried to shut it. But Caleb jammed his foot in the doorway. His eyes turned sinister as he scanned the room, a knowing smirk on his face. I pulled Chloe behind me, my voice calm but cold. This is private property. If you don't leave now, I'm calling the police. Isabella's forced smile faltered. She fell back on her old trick, kneeling at the doorway, tears of regret streaming down her face. Ethan, I know I was wrong, she cried. Please, just come home with me. I let out a cold laugh and gestured toward the smirking Caleb. Take your dog and get lost. Instead of wasting your time here begging for my forgiveness, you should go back to the States and do some digging. Find out if your so-called savior really is who he says he is. My words made Isabella's expression change. No, that's not it, she explained hastily. Caleb was just worried about me coming here alone. What are you trying to say? Are you suggesting he would lie to me? I just want you to forgive me. Why do you have to keep bringing this up? Her shamelessness was so astounding it made me laugh. Chloe, unable to contain herself, lunged forward and slapped her across the face. You shameless bitch, she spat. Bringing your boy toy here to beg my brother for forgiveness? You gotta be kidding me. You're being played for a fool, and you don't even know it. Caleb suddenly went pale and staggered, leaning weakly against the doorframe. I was just worried about her safety. That's why I came along, he whimpered. Get lost, you pathetic snake. Chloe was utterly disgusted. She grabbed a broom and started swinging it at them. Caleb shielded Isabella, using the opportunity to collapse dramatically against her. She flinched, an almost imperceptible frown crossing her face. The concern she once had for him was gone. Isabella was naturally suspicious. She would investigate this. I decided to give her a little push, let them tear each other apart. A man like Caleb, with a history of deceit, deserved to be punished by the person he cared about most. Isabella and Caleb flew back to New York that same night. The evidence I had gathered was waiting for her. A week later, Caleb was beaten black and blue, his eyes swollen nearly shut. When he opened his mouth, blood trickled out. He had been taught a lesson. He knelt on the ground, bowing his head to me over and over, his face a mask of pure terror. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." His scheme, hiring thugs to attack me so he could stage a heroic rescue, had finally been exposed. He deserved everything he got. Isabella nodded, satisfied, then kicked him away. She turned to me, her eyes full of what she probably thought was deep affection. Her voice trembled slightly. "The misunderstanding is cleared up now. Come home with me." A smile touched her lips as she reached for my hand. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, my gaze clear and resolute. "Caleb was just a convenient scapegoat for you. The truth is, you can't stand the fact that I, your little plaything, dared to dump you. That's all this is." Isabella stared at me in disbelief, her voice rising with indignation. The remorse and guilt from moments ago vanished. "I was deceived too," she argued, her voice climbing. "We were in love for 7 years. Are you really going to throw that all away over one little thing?" She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes as she continued her tragic performance. "I don't believe it. I don't believe you never loved me. You can't fake true love." Hearing her pleas again, my expression remained unchanged. My voice was cold. When you truly love someone, you trust them unconditionally. You love them without reservation. But your love is filled with lies and deceit. Isabella's eyes begged me as she opened her mouth to speak again, but her phone rang. After she answered it, her face turned deathly white. She had to leave in a hurry. Watching her retreating figure, a cold smile formed on my lips. It was time to take back everything I had given her. Since the love was gone, she no longer deserved the advantages I had provided. I had my people systematically cut off the secret support and partnerships that were propping her up. The string of bad news sent Isabella into a frenzy, running around with her assistant, trying to salvage business deals. But it was no use. Her half-siblings, who had always been circling like vultures, seized the opportunity to reclaim their shares and their power. When I first met her, Isabella was naive and kind. She was an illegitimate child, but she had no malice in her heart. You can't choose your family, and for the first time, I set aside my prejudices. As I got to know her, my opinion of her changed. Her legitimate siblings, however, constantly tormented her, nearly costing her life on several occasions. My heart softened, and I asked my uncle to use his connections to help her secretly. I helped her for 7 years, and with each passing year, her love for me dwindled. Then Caleb, the fake savior, appeared, and she was no longer the Isabella the first had loved. She had become no different from the power-hungry socialites who would do anything to get ahead. Perhaps sitting on her throne for so long made her forget the path she took to get there. She grew impatient with me, seeking excitement elsewhere. Even without Caleb, there would have been countless others. The next time I heard news of Isabella was 2 months later. She had lost the battle for control of Vance Corp. As an illegitimate daughter with no more value, she was kicked out of the family. She was no longer the high and mighty CEO. Her status as an illegitimate child was exposed, and she became the object of public scorn. It was a taste of her own medicine. The humiliation I felt at our wedding, being mocked by all those people, she deserved to feel that. Seeing that I had finally moved on from my past relationship, Uncle Robert was eager to set me up on blind dates. I tried to refuse, but he was insistent. I sighed and agreed, figuring I would just go through the motions. After finishing dinner with a potential match, I came face to face with the last person I expected to see. Isabella. She looked disheveled and utterly exhausted, a far cry from the imperious woman I remembered. The moment she saw me, her dull eyes lit up. "Ethan," she said, her voice cautious and eager to please. "I finally found you. I've been waiting here for days. It's so hard to get a moment with you." She rubbed her hands together and laughed awkwardly, inching closer. I caught a sour smell and instinctively took a step back. Seeing my revulsion, Isabella, who had always been so proud, flushed a deep red. "If you know what's good for you, you'll stay away from me," I said coldly, and turned to leave. Her voice was filled with panic and a hint of desperation. Her shoulders slumped. She grabbed my arm, refusing to let go, and once again, she threw away her pride and knelt at my feet. Her face was pale as she begged, "Please, just give me some money. I spent everything I had to fly here to find you." The little cash I had left was stolen. If I don't see you, I'm going to starve to death on the street. For the sake of the 7 years we had, just treat me like a beggar. Give me something, anything. Seeing my hesitation, a flicker of hope ignited in her eyes. She tightened her grip on my arm. A lump formed in my throat, a strange mix of pity and sorrow. I looked away, pulled a couple of bills from my wallet, and dropped them on the ground. From this moment on, whether she lived or died had nothing to do with me. When I got home, Uncle Robert was waiting, eager for gossip. I gave him a non-committal, business-like summary, which earned me an eye roll and a huff about being evasive. The two families are meeting for dinner again in a few days, he said. If you really don't like her, that's fine, but you have to show up. I chuckled and agreed, a warmth spreading through my chest. Ever since my parents passed, the feeling of being cared for by an elder had been a distant memory. When I arrived at the hotel, both families were already there. I happened to run into Evelyn Reed in the hallway. Sorry I'm late, she said quietly. Work was a bit crazy. I just got here myself, I replied. We smiled at each other and walked in, only to be met by my uncle's knowing, teasing grin. I sighed in resignation. The dinner was pleasant. As we were saying our goodbyes, a dark figure suddenly rushed toward us. It was Isabella. She threw herself at Evelyn's feet, banging her head on the floor. Please, I'm begging you, leave him alone, she shrieked. We were together for 7 years. Please, don't destroy our relationship. Uncle Robert's face darkened with rage at Isabella's insane ranting. He immediately called for hotel security to drag her away. Isabella's hair was a mess, her eyes bloodshot. She pulled a knife from her coat. She had lost everything, while I had transformed into someone completely out of her reach. The psychological imbalance was too much for her to bear. Anyone comes near me, I'll stab them, she screamed. Ms. Reed, Ethan is all I have left in this world. Please don't take him from me. You have loving parents, a wealthy family. I have nothing. Her expression was one of utter desolation, but her dead eyes were once again filled with a possessive love for me, a love I no longer wanted or needed. Rage shot through me. The audacity of this woman was unbelievable. Her frantic, head-kowtowing display had terrified Evelyn, who was now pale and hiding behind her parents. I strode forward and yanked Isabella up from the floor, positioning myself to block her view of Evelyn. My eyes blazed with fury. She was deliberately trying to sabotage this. Evelyn was an innocent bystander, and I wouldn't let her be dragged into this mess. My voice was low, each word a threat. What the hell do you think you're doing? My tone seemed to snap her out of her frenzy for a second. She shot a venomous glance at Evelyn, then her eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling uncontrollably. I'm the only one who deserves you, she sobbed. I won't let you love another woman. I'll kill them. Isabella smiled at me, a demonic, twisted grin. Her words sent a fresh wave of fury through me. I had held back, shown her mercy for the sake of our past, but she had taken my compassion for weakness. Fine. When she saw me signal for the security guards to come and throw her out, tears of regret streamed from her eyes. She pressed the knife against her own wrist. Don't come any closer, she threatened. I swear I'll die right here in front of you. You'll have to live with the guilt for the rest of your life. I remained silent, and a flicker of panic crossed her bloodshot eyes. I raised an eyebrow, a cold smile on my face. Go on. What are you waiting for? I thought you wanted me to live with guilt for the rest of my life. Isabella's hand trembled, and the sharp blade sliced into her skin. A line of bright, red blood welled up. The pain made her face go pale. I just smiled. Keep going, I urged, my voice like ice. Don't stop. She never expected me to be so ruthless. She bit her lip and cut herself again. Seeing that the standoff wasn't working, she dropped to her knees at my feet again, tears falling silently, her head bowed in shame. Her expression became numb. What do I have to do, she mumbled, to win you back? I looked down at her, my voice final and absolute. It's impossible. I waved my hand in disgust, and the guards dragged her away. I never wanted to see her face again. After escorting Evelyn and her family out, Uncle Robert clapped me on the back, laughing heartily. My nephew has finally broken free, he boomed. From here on out, life is only going to get better. The incident with my ex-girlfriend, oddly enough, sparked Evelyn's curiosity. We started meeting up for dinner and spending more time together. Our feelings for each other grew stronger. After a year of dating, both our families began pushing for us to get married. Evelyn and I just looked at each other and smiled. We agreed. The wedding was perfect. There was no mockery or scorn, only sincere blessings. In just 1 year, I had ended a 7-year relationship and found a new one. For the first time, I understood what a healthy, normal love felt like. Our life together was sweet and happy. As for Isabella, I heard the Vance family had brought her back to the States. She was married off to a business partner to seal a deal. I felt a fleeting sense of pity for her. The Vances were cold, ruthless people. Not long after her marriage, Isabella stabbed her new husband to death. Then she went to the Vance estate and killed her own father, the man who had arranged her marriage. Afterward, under the cover of night, she jumped off a bridge, ending her tormented life. When I heard the news, I could only sigh. Life forces people to change. The woman she had become was a stranger, nothing like the bright, kind girl I remembered, the girl who was so much like Evelyn. But that was all in the past. I had new life now. There was no need to dwell on old wounds and old names.